Hello everyone and welcome to English Today. We are moving on from our cold task. Hopefully you had the chance to complete all of your cold tasks and are ready to learn today about the specific features of a defeat the monster tale. So what do you think the features of a defeat the monster tale are? Pause it for a second. Imagine a lot of you maybe wrote some things down like neat handwriting, full stops, capital letters. That's brilliant. That's things we definitely expect to see in our writing. But when we look at the feature, it's something that is very specific to that style of writing. For example, a feature of poetry is quite often rhyme in certain poems. So we'd expect to see that in all of the different ones. Okay? Features of a defeat in the monster tale. We have short, snappy sentences used for effect. We have some sort of suspense. It's really important to captivate the reader, to draw them in, that we build suspense. Description with our adjectives and expanded noun phrases, that could be for the characters or for the setting. Speech, interesting verbs to describe the movement, definitely for the monster, how he moves, how he acts, if he talks. I'm saying he there, it could be anything, it could be he, she, it. Adverbials, so especially those fronted adverbials, in the blink of an eye, it has here as an example here. In the blink of an eye, the beast pounced. Out of nowhere, comma, what happened? Prepositions to express time. So remember, preposition, they refer to time, but also where. And then a clear structure, those 5 steps that you looked at over the last couple of days. Opening or introduction, build up, problem, resolution, ending. So I'm going to read a shortened version of our model text, Beowulf. Can you spot any of these features as I'm reading it? I'm going to pick out 3 examples at the end of each slide. And then for chapter 3 and 4, I think it is off the top of my head, you are going to try and find them and write them down on your sheet of paper. So here we go. Let me just move my big head out of the way. Chapter 1, a great hall. Long, long ago, Denmark was a wild place. Gruesome monsters roamed the misty moors. At night, they howled and growled and shrieked and snarled. The king of the Danes, a warlord named Hrothgar, refused to be scared. He built a huge hall for himself on top of a craggy hill at the edge of the moors. The hall was made of the finest wood, decorated with ivory, silver, and dazzling gold. The king called it Herot. Each night, the king invited the bravest warriors to a lavish feast of roasted meat with jugs of frothing ale. The huge hall shook with singing and laughter. The men ate and drank until they fell asleep, safe together in the warmth. But outside, something evil was rising. Okay, so I'm just going to unpick a couple of features there for you. We've got our short, snappy sentence here for effect. Gruesome monsters roam the misty moors is right at the start of our story. Immediately, as a reader, I'm thinking, who are these monsters? Why are they so gruesome? The fact that they roam almost makes me think that they set the rules. They go wherever they want in the mist. Do people see these monsters? If they're in the misty moors, do they even know they're there? Some descriptive phrases here. Finest wood decorated with ivory, silver, and dazzling gold. And then the suspense at the end. We have all of this positive description. They ate and drank until they fell asleep. They're safe together. But something evil was rising. Dot, 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 dun, dun, dun. We've created that suspense. Okay? Moving on to chapter 2, a monster strikes. Across the moor, a foul monster crawled from the swamp. Its name was Grendel. It had claws like knives and burning eyes. The warrior's laughter had woken it from sleep. Grendel hated laughter. The monster marched across the moors in a fit of rage. It burst upon Hadot and smashed open the doors. The warriors in Hadot were terrified. They'd never seen anything so fierce. The men tried to fight, but Grendel was too strong. The monster snatched up several men and dragged them screaming to its lair at the bottom of the swamp. Grendel returned every night for months. Any man brave enough to stay in Herat at night didn't live until morning. Again, I slowed down my reading at the end there because it's dramatic, it's creating suspense. You really want the reader to hear those certain words. Any man brave enough to stay in Herat didn't live until the morning. They all died. The monster took them all back to its lair. Clear structure. We've got our next chapter and a title. This is almost our build-up now. Prepositional phrase, not so much for time, but for where. So the monster marched across the moors in a fit of rage. And then these choice of verbs are incredible. They're so impactful. So it snatched several men and dragged them whilst they were screaming. You are going to now use the toolkit as I read chapter 3 and chapter 4, or after I've read it, it's up to you. Can you try and find an example or a few examples of these? You may want to use different colours or write them out neatly in sentences, some form of key, whatever you think. So, chapter 3, a hero arrives. This is our sort of back of our problem, moving on into our resolution, I guess, a little bit. Across Denmark, a coast guard watched as a warship approached the cliffs. The guard frowned. The ship was filled with their enemies. The guard rushed to challenge the warriors. "Who are you?" he demanded. "What do you want?" The Geats leader stepped forward. His shield gleamed in the dazzling sun. "I am Beowulf," he declared. "Tell your king that I've come to kill his monster." "Go home," the guard insisted, raising his spear. "Many men have died trying to fight Grendel." Beowulf just smiled. "And that is how I shall die too," he said. Chapter 4, Beowulf versus Grendel. Night fell. Most of the geeks huddled together at the back of the hall, armed with axes, knives, and swords. Beowulf sat alone in a dark corner near the doors. Beowulf's friend Leofric crawled over. He looked worried. "Beowulf," he whispered, "where is your sword?" "I gave it to the guard outside," Beowulf replied. "Grendel fights with bare hands, so I will too." Beowulf saw the fear in his friend's face. "Don't worry, Leofric," he added. "We will kill this monster." Outside on the moors, the beast was already stomping towards Heorot. Grendel tore open the doors and glared inside. All of the geese lay fast asleep, except for one. Beowulf crouched in the shadows. His steely eyes were fixed on the murdering monster. Grendel reached for Leofric, and Beowulf pounced, grasping the monster's arm. Grendel writhed and thrashed out, but Beowulf would not let go. Grendel swiped and slashed, but Beowulf would not let go. He tugged the monster's arm and tore it from its body. Grendel roared in pain. The monster smashed out of the hall and charged into the night, staggering across the moor. Beowulf stood, holding Grendel's dripping arm. He knew the monster would bleed to death. Grendel was defeated. Okay, so pause the slide there. See if you can identify these features in the last two chapters here. As a challenge X, can you read the Three Little Pigs? If you have time, can you read the Three Little Pigs and identify some of the features in that traditional tale? Have fun. Hope you enjoyed the story. See you for Spag.